Hello. It's Thursday, so it is time for another live. Before I get started, I just have this funny thing that happened this morning that I like to talk about a little bit. Excuse me. So we went to Dunkin' Donuts this morning to get a nice coffee, and I noticed that it had a logo of like a sports team. And at first I thought, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought it was like I thought it was the Patriots, which I'm actually a fan of the Patriots. But it turns out that it was a logo for the Boston Red Sox. I'm a Yankees fan, and so I was looking at this cup and I'm like, why am I forced to advertise a team that I absolutely don't like? Because there's such a rival between the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox, right? But the funny thing is, my husband pointed out, is not only am I advertising it, and I don't really want to, but I'm paying to advertise it. So my lesson learned for the day, among many, is that that's the price that I pay for living in a state that is loyal to another baseball team. So yeah, that was my funny story for the morning. Well, for the day that happened this morning. So anyway, let's get to it. Today, I am doing our last video in this series of BPD. I think I plan on doing many more because I've gotten a great feedback and a lot of response on it, and I feel like it's something that definitely needs to be explored more. It's not one of the mental illnesses that's really discussed often. So I think that it will be important for me to talk about this in the future more often. But today is the last video for this series. And if you looked at my other videos, so I went through like the first episode had everything to do with like what borderline personality is. The second video had to do with, the second and third video had a lot to do with some of the symptoms that I struggle with the most. And then I left this video last purposely because I wanted to talk about one of the symptoms that I struggle with a lot, and it's the result of all the other symptoms that I talk about and more that I didn't even get to talk about. And that is having unstable or changing relationships. So my whole life, first of all, I value relationships. That is something that's very important in my life. It always has been. However, it's always been a challenge for me to either keep relationships or have long-term relationships almost. And it's not because I don't love the people that I'm in these relationships with. It's just that because of these other symptoms and, that I talked about in the other videos, along with symptoms from other mental illnesses, it's made it especially difficult for me to keep relationships or not sabotage relationships or keep them long-term, not grow out of them, all that jazz. And I suffered a lot of years of my life because I blamed myself for everything. It was always like, well, I shouldn't say that. There was a period in my life where I blamed everyone else because to me, the world was bad and everyone in it. And so I was constantly hyper vigilant and looking for cues of this relationship is bad and I need to get out. A lot of what happened to me as well, like I talked about in the other videos, is I have this fear of abandonment that I'm overcoming. And relationships, things happen in relationships that kind of feed that fear. No relationship is perfect, whether it's with your parents, your spouse, friends, family, at work. Every relationship has its challenges because we're people and we have different thought processes and different values and different ways of doing things, right? So no relationship is going to be perfect. But for me, that fear of abandonment was so ominous, so overwhelming that at the slightest sign of the possibility that a person could abandon me, I was like on guard or looking for ways to make sure that doesn't happen, or sometimes just making it happen so that I could have control over my hurt, if that makes any sense. So, for example, in a friendship, let's say, if I felt like there would probably be nothing I can do to keep that person, then I would probably end the relationship myself, because it would be much easier than trying to fight for the relationship, or it would be much easier than getting abandoned myself. Which I know, you might be hearing this and thinking like, that sounds like very drastic or extreme. It is, and that's kind of the issues, the challenges that people with BPD face, that it's all or nothing, black or white thinking. So it can be very extreme. But as someone who had gone through so much trauma and different things in her life, that kind of, I'm not talking in a, okay, let me backtrack. As someone who went through so much trauma, it was easy for me to think that abandonment is bound to happen. And I've sabotaged a lot of relationships, or have allowed misunderstandings to pull me away from relationships. I've hurt some of the most important relationships in my life because of fear of abandonment, or because I had such an issue regulating emotions that if anyone hurt me and I was really close to them, it was so much bigger than a hurt that someone else experiences. And I had talked about this in another video, is like, whereas someone hurts you and you feel hurt, someone with BPD like me feels super hurt, feels like it was the worst thing in the world to be hurt by someone that we love so deeply. And so, yeah, it is very extreme. And the reason why I left this topic for last is, one, it's very uncomfortable for me, first of all, to publicly acknowledge that I have ruined relationships in my life. But I think in some way, shape, or form, we all have, right? And so that's why I feel comfortable being somewhat vulnerable about this topic, because I think in many ways, most of us face these challenges in life. And then to kind of show you that all of the other symptoms that I was addressing in previous videos, you could see where that would cause for me to sabotage relationships, or hurt relationships, or walk away from relationships. Because at the end of it all, someone with BPD, especially if they don't know that they fit the category, they're going about life not even understanding that something is wrong. And then most of the time blaming themselves when things do go wrong. And that's been the hardest part for me about learning about my diagnosis. It's been freeing, because I realize, okay, that makes a lot of sense. If I look at my life and the things that I've done, that makes sense. But I think it was painful at the same time, because had I been diagnosed before, had I known what was some of the causes of these behaviors, I could have saved so many years of hurt. I could have saved so many years of misunderstandings, of hurting people, of being hurt. Just so much could have been different. What I'm learning is to have self-compassion. What I'm learning is to forgive myself for some of those things, and to forgive others, because I'm realizing, well, maybe it wasn't that extreme. Maybe I just felt like it was. So that's been one of the most challenging processes about all of this. And I find that anyone who starts taking care of their mental health and starts exploring will find that there's periods where you may feel guilty, or you may feel bad because you didn't know, but you didn't know. And that's where I'm learning to have self-compassion. I didn't know. I've gone to many therapists. I've gone to many psychiatrists over my life. and no one really knew. No one diagnosed, no one saw the signs or whatever, you know. Like, I know that mental health research has come very far. I know that we're very behind on the research. And so at first I think I was angry at the mental health professionals, because it's like, oh my goodness, all these years, I would say at least 20 years, I've been searching for answers to try to get better and to try to be a better person, to try to heal. And I wasn't really afforded that opportunity until now. I'm grateful that I've finally found what is causing so much pain in my life, and I've learned ways to manage those symptoms, to teach myself how to think properly, to have self-compassion. But I got off track. But there's so many of us out there like this. There's so many people that just don't have the right diagnosis and can't seek the proper treatment because they don't know what's wrong with them. So yeah, I'm learning to have self-compassion. I think I've rambled a bit in this video, but that's fine, whatever. Thank you for loving me through it anyway. Self-compassion is key when you are battling mental illness. You know, if somebody were to start telling you how they feel in your exact words, chances are you're not going to tell them that they suck. You're not going to tell them that they're an awful person. You're not going to tell them that it's their fault. You're going to sit down with them and you're going to say, this is not your fault. This is an illness, and there's hope, there's help, there's all these things. You're not going to speak harshly to them. And so we need to not do it to ourselves. We need to not beat ourselves up so much for not knowing. And just go get the help that you need. That's the bottom line. And I will say that probably until the ends of my time here. Getting professional help, doing the work that it takes to get better is the most important thing. Getting a good support system, talking to people, not isolating, working hard. And it sucks, you know? Sometimes it's like, why should I work so hard? None of this was my fault. I get that in so many ways. But at the end of the day, do you want to live a fulfilling life, or do you want to exist? I don't want to exist anymore. I want to love the way that I've always wanted to love. I want to have relationships the way I've always wanted to have relationships. I want to have experiences that I've always wanted to have. I want to live life like fully. And this work that I've been doing has allowed me to start living that life. And so I hope that when you're watching this video, that even if you're not someone who is diagnosed with BPD or fits under the categories, even if you don't have mental illness, that you start thinking about the life that you want to live and chase it even if it's hard work, and no matter whose fault it was or wasn't. You are important, and your life is important, and it should be lived to the fullest. So I'm going to end there. Thanks for watching as always. I really hope that this speaks to you in some way, or maybe someone you know. I'm pretty sure that there are people out there that watch this and can identify with all of these things. And I'm glad to be able to give somewhat of a voice to it. And at the same time, I'm very sorry that you can identify, but there's hope. There's always hope. Don't give up. Keep living, keep fighting, keep chasing the life that you deserve to live. So again, thanks for watching. Have a good night. If you want to leave any comments below, I'd be happy to read them. I'd love support. I love your support. And be strong. Stay strong. Thank you for watching.